we come into your presence and worship, we know that you have the ability to change our hearts in a way that we could never possibly imagine. God, and today in this place we stand for you. We love you more than anything. And we are here for you, God. Knowing that you can change our lives. You can change our futures. You've redefined it by your son dying on the cross for us. And today we worship you.
Your promise, my soul. She's
dark your world may be, no matter how much pain you may be experiencing, we can find peace and power in the name of Jesus today, in this very moment, as we worship Him together.
He's awakening the hope in me by calling forth my destiny. He's breathing life into my soul. I will thirst for Him and Him alone. He has come like the rain, the showers on the barren plain. So my heart, tongue confess, Jesus Christ, the hope of a man. My hope is in You, God. I am steadfast, I will not be moved. I'm anchored, never shaken. All my hope is in You. He's awakening the hope in me by calling forth my destiny. He's breathing life into my soul, and I will thirst for Him and Him alone. He has come like the rain, yes He has, the showers.
All right. our trip we took last week, I want to tell you a story, the first job I ever had. Today is going to be almost all stories from our trip to Nicaragua, but also from my childhood and early adulthood. The first job I ever had was a janitor. Okay, so it was a summer janitor job, fresh out of high school, young bull, ready to work. And here's what happened. I was in the business of moving an object from room A to room B, or room A to the hallway, cleaning object, and then moving it back in. I got a good amount of use out of this here dolly, okay? I had this brilliant idea. I worked with a guy named Conrad and another guy named Ronnie, okay? Welcome to Pittsburgh, Conrad and Ronnie. I had this brilliant idea. I'm able to dolly objects, like massive, like desks and things like that, with this dolly. And if I run fast enough and push fast enough, the moment that I kind of let this thing, see I pull it down like this, the moment that I let this little handle go up, it's going to fling me up into the air. So if I run, and then slam it, and then put my foot here, I'm going to shoot up into the sky, because that's how, it's physics. So here's what happened. I'm a scientist, a young scientist. Here's what happened. I decided that was cool, but it was kind of for chumps. So I was going to try the real way to do it, and here's what I was going to do. I was going to flip this puppy around, you know where this is going. I was going to put my feet on it like this. I was going to run as fast as humanly possible, and run and jump and try and dolly myself down the hallway. I'll fill in the blanks for you. Here's what happened. I got about 2 successful runs on the self-dolly machine. The third run did not turn out so hot. There's an angle that you have to have it at, just in case you do this in your future. There's an angle you have to have it at, and if it's any more this way, you stop and it's super lame. Any more this way and you die. So what happened was, I was going, and let's just say at some point I ended up on the ground, and my shins had a bruise that was straight across, and I heard Conrad, this big thundering man, coming up the stairs. I said, "Oh Lord!" So I just fallen. This is me laying down, and I'm like getting up. This is not my first week on the job. It may have been my second week. It wasn't my last week. I survived. I got up. Conrad comes around the corner. I'm completely embarrassed. Bruises across my shins, and he's like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I tried the old classic self-dolly." He's like, "You're an idiot." I was like, "It's possibly true." Sometimes in life we use things the completely wrong way, okay? You can dolly a shelf, it works. You can dolly a bookcase, it works. But sometimes you try and dolly yourself, for example, it doesn't work so hot. We'd ask the question, is this dolly broken, or was I just using it improperly? About 3 weeks ago, Mrs. Kimpel had this cute date idea. I'm going to let you into our little relationship history. Here's what happened. She says, "I was going to take you camping tonight." You guys, all the guys are like, "Oh, right, camping, yeah, hatches and stuff." Okay, here's what happened. She says, "All right, we're going to go camping tonight. I bought this tent from a neighbor we had down the street, not sketchy." And she's like, "But it's raining outside," which you can still camp in, but it's not. So she was like, "So we'll set up the tent inside, we'll set it up in our living room, and we can have a little cookout." Precious, she's precious. So I was like, "I'm in." So it's this little like 1-person tent that we were going to snuggle up in and like watch a movie, Home Alone or something. It was right before Christmas. And so we have it set up. The only problem is it's like a backpacking tent, which means it has to be staked into the ground. Have you ever tried to nail a plastic stake into a tile floor? Impossible. So she's trying to set it up. I'm in the living room like, not chestnuts, like marshmallows roasting on my stove. Like we're getting everything ready, it's going to be perfect, but the tent cannot get set up. It's completely laying on the ground, doesn't work. You know why? It's not because the tent was broken. It's not because the dolly was broken. It was because it was intended for a completely different purpose altogether. The tent, it wasn't that we were missing pieces, it wasn't that I didn't have the stakes to go into the ground. It was that it was intended for something more. It wasn't intended for the comfort of our living room. It was intended for a life lived off the beaten path. A tent makes sense when you take it outside. It doesn't make so much sense when you live with it inside, or you try and set it up inside, even though it's cute, love her. Here's what happens. Here's what King's Academy, here's where we're located now, is that we have come to the realization, hopefully through this last semester, that you're following Jesus was never intended for the easy road. Your following of Jesus is not that something's broken, you're not missing the stakes to go into the ground of the tent of your faith. You are using it in the wrong way. It was never intended for the life that was common. King's Academy, in the span of 1 week, has been put in a position where they live life off of the beaten path. Think about it. In the span of 7 days, some of the students here at the King's Academy will have been with the poorest of the poor and with the most elite of the elite. And since I don't have a voice of gold and I'm not in the arts department, I'm here. Okay, so I'm going to share 2 stories, 2 observations, 2 truths about what we experienced in Nicaragua that I think are important for our community here and also important for what God is doing around the globe. Here's the first story. First night we pull in, and we're trying to explore what it means to live life off the beaten path, to experience a faith that's not comfortable or complacent. We get off the plane, everyone's super excited, and everyone's kind of ignorant to what we're about to go into, but super eager, super full of anxiousness, readiness, maybe a little bit of anxiety. And they put us on a van and a bigger van, which they called a bus. Okay, so just massive amounts of people in one space with all of their bags crammed in. Next morning, same deal. We wake up, we eat a delicious breakfast, get on the van, completely packed. Everyone's like, kind of conversation is rolling. Everyone's like, beep, bop, boop, ba, bop, 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 saying things about where we are. Everybody's lighthearted, eager. We make our way through the city, trying not to get car sick, moving back and forth, and we go all the way to the edge of the city, and our leader named Fan, he turns back, he's in the front, so he turns back, and he says, hey guys, you're going to notice that everything around you is going to look a little different. The atmosphere is going to change a little bit as we move outside of Managua to the place where we're going to serve called Cristo Rey. So we move out, and I noticed something, and I shared this with my group, but I noticed something interesting about what happened in our van. We moved, and the zigzagging because of cars turned into zigzagging because the road got really bad. Like potholes so bad that you zigzag back and forth just to make it through. And on each twig, you may have seen a picture, on each twig or on each bush, there was a plastic bag, a piece of plastic. And the plastic grew and grew and grew almost to the point where it formed itself into a pile. And I'm not talking like, I was expecting to see a massive, huge pile that smelled terrible. It's not so much that it was overly huge, overly tall, overly grotesque. It was that it just continued and continued and continued. And it was as though the atmosphere outside of the vans influenced the very people inside of them. And the mess, the struggle that we were experiencing outside began to make its way into the hearts of the people on the team. And so people became more and more serious, and the conversation became less and less as we began to view with seriousness why we were there. Our journey had led us far too close to the struggle of these people to remain unaffected. So we continued on, and it became even more sobering when we're driving into the place where we're going to serve, and we look to the right and you see boys and girls digging through trash for things to eat, constantly, only turning for a second to look at what was driving past. And the second day was just a fleeting moment, but it's something that will stick in my mind for a while. It's this moment where we're moving, we just turned right to be on this road, and the dump's here, and where we were serving is to the left. And I see a dump truck, which is just a flatbed truck, move into the dump. And there's a boy who's eagerly running after the truck, not for something to do, but for something to eat. Our journey had brought us far too close to the issue to remain unaffected. It had brought us far too close to the struggle to be easy with where we were. And so the atmosphere of the bus, the radical change of the people on the team is that the more and more we serve, the more and more we struggle together, we experience the weight of the issue. Why is this important? I think if you look around at the people that sit in the chairs next to you and you feel completely unaffected by the issues that they feel, it's not because you lack the knowledge, it's because you lack the proximity. And when I say proximity, that's the closeness to somebody. I can know all about how you're hurting. But if there's no point in my life or in your life where we allow ourselves to get close enough to feel the pain, then we don't really care about that person. So we sit, and I think for far too long, people in here have sat, there you go, that's past tense. People in here have sat and wondered, is there something wrong with my faith? It's like a tent set up in a living room. Am I missing pieces because this religion thing seems really dull? Following Jesus was never meant for the easy road. So as much as you'd say, my spiritual vision, my spiritual life feels foggy, feels weighted down, feels smoke, as much as you would say that, images like this, as much as you say my vision is clouded, I don't feel like my spiritual life is like all these other Christian people that are around me. If you were to follow that smoke to the surface, you'd find something that is burning, that is a false idol in your life. It feels cloudy up here, traced down to the earth, and you will find that you have refused to allow yourself to become affected. So my observation was that as the more and more we served, and the more and more we moved towards this community of people, the more and more we became a community of gratitude. Imagine with me how different TK would look if we were known as a community that expanded deeply in community as it expanded also in gratitude. Imagine if this place, imagine if your peers or your people that your neighborhood knew you at King's Academy was a community that was permeated, absolutely covered by a spirit of gratitude and deep community. That's the first observation. The second observation is we were able to experience the sponsorship of 150 students. You saw it when they followed him through and the guy picked up a backpack. It was really influential, but I didn't even realize it when we were there. Like when we were there, I was actually tired on the third day and I was kind of chilling in the back waiting for things to happen. I actually realized it when I was recounting the trip with my wife in PDQ and I started crying. That's a super awkward moment when you're in PDQ, like eating a chicken sandwich. She still loves me, it's alright. So I'm recounting the story to her, and this is why it was influential, this is why it matters to us. 150 students. We had no part in them actually like getting their backpacks. That wasn't our job. We were just graced with the opportunity to be there. Almost there. Anyway, so we're sitting in the back, and children are running to the front, getting their uniforms. So just imagine this parade of people, their names called, picking up a backpack, and instantly being shuttled out into another room. When they came back in, they were fully dressed, uniforms white and blue, some tall white socks, and leather shoes. They walked back into the room, but the most impactful thing, and I did not even come close to realizing this when we were there, one of the most impactful things was after we had all 150 of them gathered together, we paraded some of your students with those little boys and little girls on their backs, some on their shoulders, walked to the school. Children that would have no opportunity to get an education. And, recounting that event to my wife is so powerful. You have to think of the imagery. But that people who have no opportunity for change would walk down the roads that mark their hardship. That God would parade his promise, that God would parade his faithfulness in the form of little boys and little girls moving towards the school. This isn't a lesson about how great education is. This is a lesson about a God who sees people struggling in the least of these. So these children moved, and they moved towards the school and issue a declaration of what they will be already. I was reminded of this story. God talks through an angel to this man named Gideon. Gideon's super unlikely, and the Israelites are really failing. He comes to this man Gideon, who's in the process of doing something cowardly, and God speaks to him and he says, "Man of valor, mighty warrior." He speaks to Gideon according to a future reality. I couldn't stop, I couldn't take it in, that to look at those children and to envision that day would be the day that marks the day that they move to be a professor, or they move to be an engineer, or they move to be the one who figures out stuff about science and helps their community. And I couldn't help but think that in Gideon's story, what God did was he actually interrupted his own story with redemption. That he didn't wait till the end of the story to bring hope to those people. He said, "Gideon, you're a mighty man of valor." And everybody's around saying, "Gideon's not the mighty man of valor. They're all hiding in caves." Because you are a mighty man of valor. And the truth that is true around the globe and here today is this: that God sees you for who you are, but he names you for who you will become. He sees you for who you are, but the only one able to speak purpose out of nothing names you for what you will become. that message, that the truth of what God is doing around the globe with the least of these, through totally undeserving students from this school to them, that would affect us in such a way that teachers and students would look at each other with compassion, that a community of graciousness would be formed, and that you would begin to look at each other, seeing honestly where you are now, but naming each other in accordance to what you will be. That you will be a mighty man of valor. It wasn't true. This kid will be a professor. And it has started now. Redemption doesn't wait till the finish of your story. It occurs now. My prayer is that would deeply affect your heart as we move into the second semester of chapels this year. I'm going to pray and then we're going to dismiss. Father God, we thank you that you consider us now, and you name us for what we will be in you. That is such good news. Our hearts are full of joy and also full of an awareness of what's going on around us. Allow people in this room today, allow their stories to be interrupted with the redemption of your truth. We thank you for the blessing of these songs that led us in the worship of you. We're thankful for this school where we have an opportunity to test and to try and to question and to find you faithful time and time again. Thank you that you parade your faithfulness in the feet of little boys and little girls as testimony to your goodness. May you interrupt our stories with the power of your redemption for a broken generation. We pray all this in Jesus' faithful name. Amen.